Hey everybody, this is Francesco Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report. Today I want to talk a little bit about false flags, and what's getting this in my mind is a couple stories that came out today. One involving the UN links between Korea and Syria in terms of chemical weapons. It was put out by the New York Times. And the other one is a story that a few media outlets are talking about. They're carrying is the Pentagon pledging millions of dollars to pay media companies to go out there and wage massive information warfare. And I started putting one and one together, and then you add in one other factor, and it's 85 years ago, folks, we had a false flag. All right, and let me elaborate a little bit on that, a little bit about the history, and then I'll tell you how I'm connecting the dots here. Basically, back in the 40s, actually in the 30s, and 85 years ago, you had the German Parliament, the Reichstag building. It was burned down. Hitler and the Nazis came out and they blamed this one communist kid. He was like 19, a young kid. Next thing you know, they started cracking down on all the communists. They imposed some new draconian laws like we can open your mail, we can listen to your calls and all that stuff. And it's for your safety, though, because we got to fight back these commies, these commie bastards. You know, they're freaking coming in. We got to watch them. All right, so they introduced these things and to protect the state, to protect the people. And essentially what they were doing is initiating a police state, control over the population. And later what they found out is it was essentially what many historians believe, is it was actually the Nazis that went out and burned up the Reichstag. And they did that so that they could get a police state. They could control the population. They could have a reason to crack down on the communists. They blamed it on Hitler's political rivals. This is a false flag. And you see this all the time. Many will tell you it's been essentially confirmed. 40 years ago, Gulf of Tonkin. We use that as a reasoning, the logic behind going into the Vietnam War. But the truth is far from that. You know, the public was out there and they were told, hey, these North Vietnamese boats, they attacked us, they attacked our American ships, but it was all a web of lies. And actually, our warships initiated the conflict. But we didn't find out for it for years. And it was interesting. This article I was reading illustrated how these false flags go back to even the Roman times, how Romans would use false flags to go and move forward to get their the direction they wanted to go, the control of the people. And essentially, they would utilize these false flags. And many people doubt this is happening. They're like, you know what, this is conspiracy. There's no way there could be false flags. There's no way there could be this amount of secrecy. There's no way that they could garnish enough cooperation between all these different entities to get this. But it happens, and it's been well documented. There's some minutes, and it's the same article, basically. They said back in 1962 where there was a special group. It involved the CIA, NSA, Attorney General, back then Kennedy, and a bunch of people, and they detailed the creation of false flags, false flag attacks that the United States could use to blame the Soviet Union as a reasoning, a logic to go into war with them. Now, the other thing, too, is you will look at, and now there's some real extreme false flags out there, and, you know, a good one's 9/11. Was that a false flag? You have a lot of conspiracists out there that say, hey, I didn't see a plane go into the Pentagon. How could it have landed there? You get all these things out there. And a lot wonder, well, with all the stuff surrounding it, is all the draconian laws that it allowed the government to introduce to us, was it a false flag? But you get that kind of thinking out there because the government isn't always open. They're not always sincere with us. And so they use these world-changing events to go out there and take control of the masses. Make sense? It doesn't make sense, but it works. It's effective. And you got to wonder that with this New York Times article. Essentially, they came out and they said, look, the United Nations, first of all, I don't know if I believe anything the United Nations is putting out. But the United Nations is out there, and they're alleging that North Korea is working hand-in-hand with Syria to provide the equipment so that they can go out and produce chemical weapons that they can use on the civilians. The problem is this allegation has been made before in terms of using chemical weapons on civilians, and they blame the Syrian government. But they had nothing to back it up, nothing to support it, and actually most of the evidence indicates that the rebels, those moderate rebels, you know, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, ISIS, the moderates, that they were using, they performed the chemical attack on individuals as a false flag. And you got to wonder if they're trying to build some kind of connection here. If the New York Times is supporting and pushing out propaganda for the United Nations to help the industrial war complex so that they can go out there and initiate more ground action, more wartime action in Syria, maybe extend it beyond where it's at right now, maybe give an opportunity to go into North Korea. Because North Korea is supplying Syria with this, which will give us enough reasoning, enough support to go into Korea and bomb the hell out of them. And you might be saying, Frank, you're really far-fetched. Then you turn to articles like the one that came out today. A lot of media operations were carrying this, basically where the Pentagon is out there and they're pledging millions of dollars to pay media companies to go out there and wage what they're deeming a massive information war. And there's a Twitter feed right here, and I'll include it above this video. It says the State Department is pleased to announce a new partnership with the Department of Defense for initiatives to counter propaganda and disinformation from foreign nations. The Undersecretary PD said that the transfer of funds announced today reiterates the U.S.'s commitment to the fight, and they talk about how it's going to go over to the media to fight this information war. And it's funny because they'll sit there and they'll take RT, okay? Russian Times. Larry King's on with them. Larry King used to be admired by millions of Americans when he was on nighttime TV here. Now he's over there. But anyone working with RT, they say, is a propagandist, is a Russian mouthpiece. And a lot of the Americans that work there, like George, what's his name, Salente, he will tell you, no, they don't have any say in what we do. Where's the truth? I don't know. Some companies like Sputnik, yeah, I think they're a mouthpiece for the Russians. But you know what? How can the United States come down on companies like countries like Russia or companies like the RT when we ourselves are doing it? Just before Obama left office, he passed legislation that allowed government entities to pass disinformation onto media companies. Also, right after that, the CIA gave the Washington Post, which is owned by Amazon's Bezos, the same Bezos and Amazon that made billions of dollars and paid zero taxes, they gave them about $6 million towards this initiative to pass out information in this information war. And I'm here to tell you, I monitor media constantly, and it is an information war. And we, the United States, utilize media to push out propaganda. And push it out and from every level, the right, the left, it doesn't matter. It's a shame because they know most Americans aren't paying attention. They will take what the major MSMs are feeding them. They won't do their research and find out the true information. I mean, we've already had one supposed false flag where they were blaming Syria on the chemical weapons. And they said, that's the red line. You can't do that. And then it came out that we were totally off base. Iraq. How about Iraq? And all the pretenses for going into there. I was in the military then. And a lot of those pretenses were false. They said that they were Saddam Hussein was essentially harboring terrorists because the guy that started ISIS, what was his name? Oh my God. I can't remember his name, which is amazing to me. He's basically the grandfather, the one that started ISIS. They were saying that Iraq and Saddam were harboring terrorists because of him, yet he was actually up in northern Iraq in the Kurdish controlled area, which at that time Iraq had no control over and had nothing to do with Hassan. But we, or the United States and the Republican Party, used that as the premise to go into Iraq. And look at the lovely what's happening there. It's horrible what's happened there over the years. So what say you? False flag? Conspiracy? Concerned? Not concerned? I don't know. Let me know. This has been Frankie Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report.